Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, How to Get an Instant Radiant Heating Quote. I'm Julia. I'm the owner of the company. Scott, introduce yourself,
Hi,
buddy.
I'm Scott from WarmlyYours. What a convenient coincidence. I'm from WarmlyYours too.
Scott does everything tech support, so he's the brains of the business. Of course, I'm the beauty. We got it right. Got to put that in there. So let's go over a few things first, get them out of the way. If you have any questions during this session, please ask them. That's why we do these live. We really want some interaction with you guys. Today's a really cool topic, talking about our online instant quote tool. I don't think we've done this topic, have we?
I don't think so either. So you guys are in for quite a treat.
All right. So it's pretty exciting. So as we're walking through this, one of the things I would love to hear from you guys is if you have ideas for how to make this easier, some suggestions, you'll have my contact information at the end. And I would love to hear from the folks who are actually going to be using this tool. So why don't you go over what we're going to talk about?
Well, we are going to go over why you need a quote, why you should get one of those, and how to get that quote since you need it so badly. We want to show you how you can do that. And then no matter what type of floor you install, sometimes there's more than one option to do it. So we wanted to show you the different options that are available, and sometimes they're broken out by price. So if you have a price point you need to you need to hit, or heat, then it works out perfectly for you. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Cool. Now, before we start the presentation, the formal part of the presentation, let's go live over to our website because I want to show you guys where you can actually access the tool. Because the cool thing is you could be doing this on the evening, in the evenings, on a weekend, and you can do it all on your own. I know, there are definitely people that just want to get in there, dive in, and figure it out for themselves. So on our website, we've made it easy to find this tool. Right there in the middle, get an instant quote. We've made it bold and large, so it's sitting right there. And then we also always on the website, we have that little quote icon in the top right-hand corner. That follows you everywhere you go on the website. And where else do we have it? We have a get a quote anywhere else, just in the center, top right. I thought there was one other place you could enter it, but we do try and sprinkle it out throughout
the header.
Right on the header. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's why I couldn't see it. It's that small print, darn it. All right, so at least 3 entry points right there on the main page. If you have suggestions how to make that even better, let us know. So that's us on the website. That's where to find us. Let's go back to our presentation, and we'll just start to walk through it. And you guys ask questions as we go along if it just doesn't make sense or you need clarification on something.
I'm now taking controls.
Oh, you like being in
control. So watch out. Hold on to your seat, everybody.
It's about to get crazy.
All right. So let's see. All right. It works. Okay, cool.
All right.
That was rehearsed. We've practiced for hours.
Millions of hours. Why do you need a quote? So,
well, the most important thing is because we want your installation to be problem-free. The main way to keep your installation problem-free is to not alter your heating product.
But what is that job security for you, Scott?
And I would much rather lose my job, and she's my boss. I'd much rather lose my job and have everybody put their floor in correctly than it be the other way around.
So the cable and the rolls, they come in a set length.
And it's custom designed for your particular space. So when we talk about a heating product like this, since you can't alter it, you can't make it longer, you can't shorten it.
Right.
It's very, very important to make sure that the measurements are correct.
Right.
So it's always better to have a little too little than it is to have a little too much.
Okay.
So always keep that in mind. It's always better to be, oh, I need to move this over here to make sure that area is warm, as opposed to, oh, geez, I have too much. What am I going to do with this? So remember that. Always better to be a little too little than a little too much.
Yeah, and another thing that we run into, I mean, it is an electric product, so you do need to make sure that there is electric available. So while it is very energy efficient, sometimes this is put on a single circuit. Sometimes it's combined with other things on a circuit. Then it becomes really necessary to make sure you know exactly how many watts or amps
Right.
this is going to take to operate.
Exactly. Because the thing is, we want, we could tell you, yeah, put it in willy nilly and it might work. But we don't want it to maybe work.
Yeah.
We want it to work, and we want it to work all the time. So the more things you can eliminate that might cause a problem,
Right.
the better off your installation is going to be.
Excellent. All right. So the final bullet point was that you can actually look at, and it goes right into the next slide. A quote lets you explore different options for the installation process. You may be looking at different flooring types. You might be doing wood, tile. You might be vacillating between those. And certainly by using this tool, it can help you to kind of understand the costs for each.
And you might be you might know what your floor is, but you might be on a budget and go, I can only do this much. What's the least expensive way to do it?
Right.
So there's multiple ways to quote that product. So
Right.
Going from bare bones to bells and whistles, that's going to be your price point difference.
And what we've done here, guys, is we've kind of focused on a tile flooring floor, because that is about 80% of what floor heating is installed under. So it's definitely the most popular application, but you'll see later as we work through the tool, you can customize it however you want. But as Scott was saying, you can compare different coverage versus cost.
How much time do you have available to install it? If you have a lot of time, let's say if you're retired or you're between gigs or whatever, you can take the product that takes a little bit longer to install but might cost less.
Right.
Or if you're in a really big hurry, you can use something that you can do all in one day.
Nice.
So that's kind of what you're going to want to think about. And also think about if you are a dealer or an installer of some sort, think about your labor hours that are required for installing the product.
That's a good tip. Good pro tip.
Yeah.
All right. I branded that.
Okay, cool. Let me write that down.
All right. So examples here shows, the tile floor, as we said, and there are other options. This really can go under any flooring surface, depending on what your subfloor is. We can help customize that for you. So
yeah, we can also go under carpet and laminate and hardwood. In carpet, to get it under carpet in Canada, you have to do a little something different, but we talk about that. We have an installation method that shows that.
You have to embed it.
Yeah, you just have to simply embed it. And
Where
you use one of these products. In the US, we have a product that goes between the pad and the carpet.
So it's floating.
Yep.
But you could embed it as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So tips for getting started.
Always start at the beginning.
I like it. I knew you were going to come up with something. So it's we've got the online tool, as we showed you earlier. It's free to there you can use it a couple of ways. You can just use it as a guest. But there are the other option is to use it as a pro. And the way to do that is to actually register, create an account. And the benefit of that is if you are a pro, your pricing structure is kind of already baked in to the final cost. Whereas if you're using it as a guest, you're going to get the MSRP, the list price, if you will. So up for you guys to decide. Some people like to use it as a guest. They get more comfortable, then they create their account. You can create an account whether you're a pro or a homeowner. It doesn't really matter. This product is, one of the questions we got is this sometimes installed by a homeowner? And yes, occasionally it is installed by a homeowner. There's no real rule for embedding the heating element that it has to be done by a pro. However, we do recommend for the electrical
that it's done by an electrician. And some states require, so some states do require that an electrician puts the system down on the floor too. So you might want to check and see what state you're in. You should know that, but you might want to check for any particular rules.
I think it's on their watch.
Yeah, I think so. At least I know what time zone I'm in. That. But it depends on the state you're in. You may want to check and see and say, hey, can I do this?
Yeah.
Because in certain states, it needs to be done by an electrician. So very, very few states have that requirement. So just check on it, make sure it's A-okay. But always, whenever you're attaching it to the main circuit or the mains, as they say in the UK, then that would be something that your electrician definitely would do.
Yeah. And as you can see, we've tried to make it easy for you guys to create an account. You can use Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, I guess is that Google Plus? Does that still exist?
I don't know.
But you have many options for creating
I
an
see
account.
we took the MySpace off of there, so we'll have to make for you folks on MySpace. I apologize.
All right, let's move on to the next slide.
But what we need to do though is we need to make sure that before you get started, you have your dimensions. Always measure your room.
I like
you
that.
always want to know what because we're heating the floor, so you want to know what's on your floor that may keep you from heating that particular area.
What's that mean?
Because we don't heat under permanent fixtures.
Gotcha.
So we're not going to be installing heat under your cabinets.
Okay.
So if you have a 100 square foot room, part of that square footage is going to be taken up by different fixtures. Air vents, you can't run a cable over an air vent.
Smart.
So you have to let us know where those air vents are. So it's very, very important to get your measurements done. And then say, hey, I want to make sure this part is covered, or I only want to use an easy mat and cover this part. And also,
or my doorstop is going to go here.
Right. And you want to stay away from the doorstop.
Stay away from the doorstop because that's like number 3 on your tech support call list there. So,
and also if you have electrical limitations, because if you only have a certain amount of amps available, then you are going to want to heat using that.
And you're going to want to heat the most important areas. So you're going to want to think about where are you going to be sitting, standing the most.
Right.
Okay. Or where are your pets going to be?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. So basic information. I think we've talked about this a little bit. Almost any flooring type can be found in the tool. We've also baked in the subfloor. The subfloor is kind of key.
Very, very important.
You want to talk about that? Because we've brought a lot of awareness to heat loss to the industry, and because of you.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
I don't know about that, but
take the credit.
The way I like to look at this is you're making a sandwich, right?
Yeah.
You're going to tell us what the top layer is. That's going to be your flooring. You're going to tell us what the subfloor is. That's the other part of the sandwich. So now we have to figure out what goes in between. Because if you have a wood subfloor on a second story that's above a heated, kitchen or something like that, that floor is automatically going to be warm.
Yes.
If you have a concrete slab that you're going over, that floor is automatically going to be cold.
And you've hit the nail on the head because, if when you're putting the information in the tool, if we see a subfloor that is a concrete slab, we're going to recommend insulation.
Right. And insulation means not perimeter insulation, not digging up your foundation and trying to get insulation under it.
Not good.
No, but we have a product that actually goes on top of the concrete slab to isolate it from the heating wire.
Yeah. And so that means less energy usage, faster to warm up.
And higher temperatures.
So that's like a triple win. Okay.
Yeah. And then we also need to know, is it going to be floating on top? Is it nailed down on top? Is it going to be glued down? Any of those type of things. A lot of
those would be questions for like floating, like laminate. We would need to know that.
Right.
Wood, we would need to know those things.
Right.
What other flooring surfaces?
Well, the main thing is when you go to something that is attached to a subfloor, as opposed to floating, because it's two different type of products. So what we would need to know especially is if you're doing a nail down hardwood floor, we need to know how often does the manufacturer say that it has to be nailed? Every 8 inches, every 12 inches, that sort of thing, because then we design your room plan, keeping in mind that you have all those little things that are needed to get your design right.
Cool. All right, so let's move on to the actual tool itself. We've actually broken it out. We've got like standard stuff you want to kind of enter right from the beginning so we get a good feel for the rest of the tool, because certain things only populate when you ask for something specific. Like we just talked about, like for the subfloor, or if we know the flooring is going to be wood. So different things will populate. So why don't you take them on a quick tour?
A 3-hour tour, just like Ginger and Marianne.
All right. You just dated yourself.
Yeah, well, so when you have this Radiant Floor Heating Quote Builder, you may get to the point 5 or 10 years from now where you're just ordering it by the square footage.
Yeah.
And there are people that do that because they have all this knowledge. This is kind of like what I tell people on the phone all the time is, if you're doing this for the first time, just give us your dimensions and tell us what it's going to be and let us figure the rest of it out. We'll tell you what size product you need, how many watts it's going to be, how many amps. That's what these questions are. These are just taking the place of a human being, saying, what kind of room is this going to be?
Right. So that's the number one question.
Right. Exactly. So it's going to be a bathroom. Yeah. So we need to know that.
Subfloor.
We need to know the subfloor.
We talked about why earlier.
Is it going to be a second story bathroom over a heated kitchen? or is it going to be in a basement on a concrete slab?
Right.
Because they're two completely different things. So that's why the subfloor is so important. Some people don't understand that, but that's what's such a big deal, is to know what we're going to be up against. Then we need to know, once again, this is the sandwich question right here. Here's your room. What's the top layer of the sandwich and what's the bottom layer of the sandwich?
Right.
And once you tell us that, we can then figure out what goes on in between.
Okay.
You can also, if you wanted to, you could enter the square footage with the width and the length. If you're going to do separate areas, if you want to, that's pretty intense. And that's kind of like a more advanced. And after you do this a few times, you'll kind of see how that works. So I just kind of like to, let's get the beginnings down.
Okay.
And, you know, if you say, hey, I need 100 by 100, boom, what do you need? It tells you the product, tells you the watts, tells you the amps, tells you the controls, all that sort of stuff. So this is the first part.
Nice. Okay. Great tour, by the way.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So here's the heated area. This is the square footage calculation.
So is this, once we select it, add the heated area from the previous slide?
This is going to be where you have just are going to, yes, you're going to tell us what it is. Then you're going to enter the square footage.
Okay. Excellent.
So what that's going to do is you're going to enter the square footage, and it is going to save that to the quote. And what we normally do is, I always like to keep things easy to understand. So let's say that your room is 100 square feet. 9 times out of 10, in that 100 square feet, we're really going to heat around 80% of that, which would be about 80 square feet.
Okay.
And that assumption is made here. So the room area can be edited separately if that increase doesn't match. But once again, we're at the beginning stages. Let's just keep it simple. I have 100 square feet in this bathroom.
Okay.
That's a nice bathroom.
I'll say.
Yeah. So if you take a look there at the bottom, it says design a room, which is coming soon. So hold on to your chairs, because that's coming down the road.
I feel a future webinar coming on.
Ooh, here we go. And also let you upload a sketch or a floor plan.
Right.
And that's always going to be a great way, because with that floor plan, you're going to show us where the counters are, where the air vents are, if there are any posts in the middle of your floor, say you're in a basement.
Yeah.
So if in doubt, it's always better to just send us a sketch, because then we can go by your measurements, see where those different parts are that need to be designed around. So sometimes you're lucky, you have a big contiguous space that you want to heat, but sometimes it's more difficult. You have nooks and crannies, posts, air vents, electrical outlets in the floor. You all have to stay away from that stuff. So that's where the sketch is going to be helpful.
So upload a sketch or a floor plan.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. So now at this point, you're getting very specific. And why do we have to be this detailed at this point?
Let's say you're doing a gigantic basement. And in that gigantic basement, you have a bar area.
Okay.
You have a TV area. And then you have an area that's like a spa or something. And you want to keep that basement all at the same temperature, which we don't often recommend, but it does give you an idea of, if I've got 3,000 square feet, I might want to break it up into 4 pieces.
Okay.
So you just put those individual lengths and widths and create that as a space.
Oh, and it could just be one area.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Okay.
It does allow you to make multiple areas. And that's usually where that's why someone would want to go into this area, is to make different zones in that one big space.
And that is one of the benefits of radiant floor heating, is you can do that zoning.
Yeah, and you can leave the other parts off. So if you know you're going to have a dinner party and everybody's going to be staying in the bar area, no need to turn on those other 2 or 3 parts that are in the basement. Just turn on that area. And then when you're done, you turn it off. Very easy.
All right. And then this third point is something that I like to bring up, which is walk the room. As you're looking at putting in the length and the width that you need coverage for, actually walk it. And think about where your feet, are landing. Are landing?
Yeah,
they're landing.
They are landing. Yes.
And then from there, you can start to really get detailed about what is the exact area that you need covered.
Right. The thing you need to keep in mind is, if you, I get this question all the time, and someone says, I've got a big room, but I'm going to put a 3x3 mat in the middle of the room. That'll do, right? And it'll do if you're just wanting to heat that 3x3 area, because the heat does not spread out. It does not fill the entire room. It does not make the entire floor feel warm. The only place you get that warmth on your feet is where the electric cable is.
Right. And you'll know where that area is, because that's where all the dogs and cats hang out.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and also another thing is that, let's say that you, for some reason, the room got bigger for some reason. There was going to be a big a big tub, but now it's a smaller tub. And you've got this product and you go, well, my square footage of my room has gotten bigger. I now have, I need a little bit more heating cable. What do I do? Because I'm here now. I've got to do it right now. I've got to put the floor in today.
Call Scott.
Well, you call me and I'll tell you to walk around the room and make sure wherever you walk is where it's heated. So if you ever take a look at, people sometimes will get a design from us and they'll go, well, how come you're so far away from the wall? How come you pulled the heat back so far? And I tell them, okay, go stand right up against that wall and tell me how many times you're going to stand right up against that wall and go, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to my party. Here, walk around the perimeter of the room. No one ever does that, right?
So again, that's where you find the cats and the dogs, though.
Right. So that's where you want to make sure that if you need to make sure your room is heated, you pull it off the walls a little bit because no one ever stands right up against the wall.
Good point. All right. Advanced options. Are you qualified?
I'll read. I learned how to do that.
All right. So system voltage. Why is that important?
Well, everybody thinks I need to do this in 240 because I really need it to heat up fast.
Or I really want it to be energy efficient.
There is no difference between 120 and 240.
It's really a matter of what
Amps.
Service amps and what service do you have available.
Right.
So
exactly. If you only have one space in your breaker box, then you're going to do it in 120.
Yep.
Because the 240 needs two breakers, a dual pole breaker. So it's very, very important to realize that you do not need 240 to make it heat up faster. 120 volt and 240 volt heat up at exactly the same speed.
So we've got this in here because we want you guys thinking about this early on, because we want you working with your electrician to determine if it's 120, 240. If you don't know, assume 120. I think it's a very safe bet.
And just to go on that idea is usually if your area is less than 120 square feet, we will choose 120 for you.
Okay.
Because there's no need to go to 240.
Yeah.
And it's based on the amount of amps the thermostat can handle. So that's where that comes from. So you can handle about 120 square feet with a single control on 120, or you can double that space with a single control on 240. That's the only benefit of 240 is you get to double the square footage using the same amount of amps.
I like that. And from a technical support standpoint, we occasionally do get folks that connect a 120 cable to a 240 circuit, vice versa. I don't know which way it happens the most often, but that, need to make sure that there is parity there.
Right. If you have a 120 volt mat, we kind of changed the landscape of floor heating in the last decade because now all of our products, when you get them, when you look at the end lead, if it's yellow and black, it tells you it's 120. If it's red and black, it tells you it's 240. So we were the first.
Brilliant idea was that?
I don't know, but they should be fired immediately. But by doing that, it took away the old confusion where people would sometimes get two different rolls or two different products of two different voltages and hook them together.
Yeah.
Well, one would get really, really hot and one would get really, really cold, and there would be no in between. So that's why it's so important for you to, once you tell us what voltage you want or what voltage it's going to be, is to make sure that the thermostat gets fed that same amount.
Nice.
The thermostats don't change 240 to 120, and they don't change 120 to 240.
All right. And the next one is, quote, in stock items only. I mean, clearly, if you're in a rush, that's what you need to check. If not, we'll just design it with the best fit possible based on the area and based on your electrical requirements. So if you have some more time, and I know a lot of people love to plan. I'm a last minute kind of person, but if you're a planner, then you can uncheck this. But if not, in a rush, please check.
Yeah, and there's the next item when it talks about the uncoupling membrane. The uncoupling membrane, the reason why we say the two different kinds is because the spacing on them is slightly different.
So this is the third thing that they need to look at. Now, this uncoupling membrane would only be used with our cable product. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so so with that, there are different ways that you can install that cable. You can install it with fixing strips, right? You just have a strip, you kind of connect the cable through it.
Lowest cost.
Lowest cost. You can, there are many installation membranes out there. We carry Prodessa. We love it. I think it was the original membrane out on the market. So it's stood the test of time. And with that, with the Prodeso, it's a different spacing for that membrane. Can we go back to slide 5? I want to kind of show everybody what we're talking about. So the top right there is our roll product that is not used with fixing strips or any type of insulation membrane. It's just the roll. But the cable, the bottom, the middle and the bottom, the cable middle is the fixing strips. And as you can see, it's a strip. You're just stringing it through. And then the final
Picture
image is the Prodeso membrane, which we carry. And then you can see how it just is strung through in loops.
Yeah, if you take a look at the middle image there, you can see the wire is going around and there's 3 little pucks there, or three spacers there.
Yep.
Those 3 spacers in the middle are 1 inch apiece. So there's your 3-inch spacing.
Yes.
But if you take a look at the temp zone cable in the Prodeso, you see you have 3 spacers there, but those spacers are 1.25 inches apiece. So that's where you have to tell us, hey, you're going to be installing the cable, but that's why it gives you these choices here where it says 3.0 fixing strips. We know those spaces are 1 inch apart. 3.5, that's going to be because versus 3.75, that's just the spacing of those particular spacers on the product you're using.
Nice.
So the thing to keep in mind is the further the cable is apart, the less watts per square foot you have. So the less heat output you'll have because you'll have reduced BTUs in that square foot. So it's a great idea to maybe move the cables real far apart. It's like, I won't use hardly any electricity,
right?
But you also won't get very many BTUs and the floor may not feel warm.
And depending on where you're located, if you're in certain areas of California, Florida, warmer climate, that's probably a good solution for you. But if you're here in Illinois with us, you probably want to get the spacing as close as possible so you can get quick heat, more heat.
And also, if you're in Illinois and it's really, really cold, you would use the 3-inch spacing downstairs in the basement, and you could maybe use the 4-inch spacing upstairs in the bathroom floor because there's already a warm floor below it because it's above a kitchen.
Brilliant. And the great thing about this tool is you can run it several different ways to figure out which you like best.
And that'll keep you at a cost. It'll keep you below a certain amount of power. So that's a great way to just play around with this different spacing.
Let's go back to that slide because I have a suggestion for in the future. What if we put inches next to each one of those to make it obvious to people that that's an inch that we're talking about?
Yeah, it could be just a software version, 3.0, 3.5. No.
Right? Who knows? See, I come up with some good ideas.
All right. Make sure you note that, will you?
All right. So this is going. So we've kind of gone through this. I think. Is there anything else you want to discuss here, Scott?
I don't think so. I think this is kind of a repeat.
Yeah. Just to kind of show you large font style, what you're looking at there.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like you have the uncoupling membrane. You can choose it if you want to, but if you don't choose it, you would just use cable spacing, which would be the bottom one.
Yeah.
And you could say 3 inches, 4 inches, whatever you want.
And I love that we sometimes just say, hey, you decide, because sometimes you're doing this just to kind of understand what the price is. You may not know whether you're going to do 120, 240. You may not have decided on which product you would like installed, roll versus cable. So we'll provide you with as many options as possible based on, some of the other things that you put into the tool.
Yeah, what I tell people is I say, hey, just do a let us choose one, do that for the exact room. Then for the exact same room, do one where you'd want to start choosing and just kind of see what our recommendation is compared to what you thought.
Yeah.
And you could see, hey, I'm on the right track with this, or wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I really should do it this way. So it's kind of like a learning thing. It really doesn't take very long at all to change.
Good point. All right. So here's what we were talking about just now. It's going to come up. It's going to probably give you multiple options because you're not going to necessarily, again, know whether you want the roll product or the cable product. And a lot of times you're making those decisions based on price. So, it gives you option number 1, which is the roll, or you could do the cable with the installation membrane or the cable with the fixing strips. And as you can see, It's kind of priced highest to lowest here. And of course, what we were talking about is time or money. And you can then start to play around with each of these options. First it's going to be, you're going to be selecting the floor heating, and then we'll walk you through some of the other things that come actually with the system, because right here you're building it. We love to give you information along the way. So you'll see a video for each solution that we provide. And you can see that on the right, temp zone flex roll. Our cursor now is theoretically on that temp zone flex roll. So there's a video that shows you how that is installed. And again, back to that, can I do it as a homeowner question? Watch that video, decide for yourself. And then we talk about some details on what we're assuming here, because we don't necessarily have exact measurements. We may just be ballparking it here. So we're making some assumptions, 90% coverage. And that's depending on how many square feet you put in. We're telling you about the warranty. We're telling you about the installation method, cut and turn, not cutting the cable, cutting the mesh.
Right.
We show you it's a 120 volt system, how many watts per square foot. And we also give you, and I love this part of it. I think this was my idea.
It probably was.
All right. Thanks. I get one. And so what we tell you right away is how much we're estimating, how much that is going to cost to operate. And that's important because a lot of folks think this is going to really, cost a ton. And it doesn't. I hate to say pennies on the dollar, but it really, really is. And it gets even better when you're only using it for a certain period of time and only in the rooms when you need it.
Right. And the thing is, if you notice, the top two products are pretty much similar price, but then you go to the bottom one, it's a lot less.
Yeah.
And because the one at the bottom takes a lot longer, I mean, not a lot longer, but it does take longer to install. So that's where you say, hey, I've got plenty of time. I'm going to choose a 277. And also the 277, it may even be less if you change your spacing.
Exactly.
Once it goes. So if you choose 4 inches instead of 3 inches, it will change that price of the bottom. So you're going to get a different price here. It'll give you a different price per hour that it costs. It'll reduce the number of watts per square feet.
That's right.
So that's all going to be figured out for you. So you can play with the different choices to give you different outcomes. It's like, hey, you know what? I went from 7 cents per hour to 5 cents per hour.
Nice.
Yeah. If I plan on this being on all the time, that may make a difference.
Something to consider.
Yeah.
And then what I also love about the cable and the fixing strips is just to circle back on what you said, the most flexibility there is.
Yeah, very, very simple, because you're attaching these strips to the floor and then you're routing the cable back and forth through them yourself.
Yeah, and you could actually have it closer in one area, maybe by the window or a door, further apart in another area, maybe further into the room. So lots of flexibility.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's moving on. So you've at this point you've played around with your different floor heating options. You might be starting to figure out the direction you want to go. But the next step is these things need a control. They need to be on a thermostat. Again, that's part of what allows you to customize your comfort level. It makes it very energy efficient. You give me a third bullet point.
It makes it very safe.
Makes it very safe. Oh,
because the GFI is built into the thermostat.
See, the engineer's always thinking about that.
Yep, because it is required by the electrical code that your floor is protected by a GFI. The GFI is built into the thermostats.
Brilliant.
So it actually does two things in one. It controls the temperature, it regulates the temperature, and then it also protects you from getting a shock of any sort. Nice. Some people say, hey, can I just put this on a switch? Well, first of all, if you forget to turn a switch off, then it's on all the time.
Yeah.
If you put it on a switch that's simply on and off, there is no controlling the temperature. So it's either on or off. It's either going to be really hot or ice cold. And the third thing is it wouldn't be protected by GFI. You'd have to put in a GFI circuit breaker.
Right.
So those are three pretty compelling reasons to not use a switch or any type of manual control like that, because it's already built in. And this is really a new product. It looks great. It's so easy to program. If you've been looking at floor heating for the last 15 years or so, you may go, wow, what a great idea. But this thermostat, how do you program this thing to make it work? I never figured it out. This thing is very graphically pleasing, easy to operate, easy to change your schedule. It's a great piece of machinery.
And if you don't know which one you're interested in, you certainly there are comparison charts that you can link to kind of see each feature or
Yeah, and for what our customers are telling us, for the $30 more between this programmable thermostat and this one,
yeah.
it's night and day.
That is the clear winner, guys. It's a touch screen. It's programmable. It's at a fairly reasonable price point. Once you get to the Wi-Fi programmable thermostat, it gets a little bit more pricey. Maybe better for someone who just loves to be tech savvy, or maybe is doing a larger area,
or vacation home,
vacation
like
home, right? So, so there are definitely benefits to each one of these, and we'll be doing live Q&As in the future to kind of go over some of these. And we have done a webinar just recently on our entire collection. So check out our webinar area online, and you'll find that if you want more details on the control. But that's step 2. 1, get your floor heating selected. 2, figure out which control you want. There is a use my own feature, just because, if you have something that you prefer, you absolutely want to do it a certain way, we put that option out there. But it's in very small print because Scott doesn't like that.
No, because why would you go somewhere else when this thing has everything you need?
Right.
It's a fantastic piece.
All right. The next thing that we've done is, especially for those who are working on projects, they want everything there at the same time. They want to make sure nothing's missing. We do provide installation kits, trowels, a variety of tools that you can kind of select from. If you're not interested in this, this is optional. It's really just for convenience. Just hit, and go to the next option there.
Yeah, but if you've never bought a trowel, if you've never bought any of this stuff, it's all there.
It's all there
for what you need, and it saves you a trip to the big box store, because I know when I do something, it invariably takes 5 trips to the big box store.
I've done those trips.
So this is getting it all in one place at one time.
Just the convenience factor. And the next is kind of it's not necessarily related to convenience, but it's ensuring that you've got everything you need for the electrical part of it, as well as any backup kind of stuff that you need.
It lets your installation comply with the local electrical code.
And so, where do you want to start here?
Well, some people like having a backup sensor. Some companies, really toot their horn about getting an extra sensor. I talk to people all day, every day, and you'd be amazed at the very, very low failure rate of a sensor. Extremely low, because it's just a little thermistor that's in your floor, and once it's in there, it never moves. It never does anything.
But
it's good to have as a spare, if you don't want to deal with replacing it. So what people do is they will put one in here, and they'll put one in here. They'll run them both up to the thermostat. They'll attach one to the thermostat and leave the other one balled up in the back of the box.
So what the sensor is doing is it's connected to that thermostat, and it's allowing you to regulate the heat. How warm do you want the floor?
Right. It lets you control the temperature of the floor. Without that sensor, you can't control the temperature of the floor.
And it's embedded in the floor with the heating element. Doesn't touch the heating element, because that would send the readings off. It's not put near something very cold or where there's a lot of heat loss, because that will throw the readings off. But that sensor is what's allowing you to turn up, turn down that heat.
Right.
Okay.
The next thing is a circuit check, and we strongly suggest that you get a circuit check, because what it does is when you're ready to do your cuts and turns of your product or install it, you attach it to the wire, the heating wire before. Then as you're doing your cuts and turns or moving it around, if anything happens, like you drop a trowel on the wire, and as soon as you do that, the thing screams at you, you know that what you just did is caused a problem in the wire, and it lets you fix it before it gets covered in thin set or any of that stuff.
Again, call Scott.
Yep, because that is going to be an easily repaired thing if you take care of it right then. And that's what the siren is saying. Hey, stop. Whatever you just did, you need to fix.
Yeah. And NIT's, call Scott, but Scott does have an entire team behind him, and he does manage the 24/7 tech support. So even if it happens after hours, But not past midnight.
Oh, anytime. We're always available.
You said it.
But we like to think of it as installation support. Not many people. There are some people that have installed after midnight or 3 a.m., but that's not too many, thank goodness.
All right. So yeah, always get that circuit check. Unless you've been doing this for a while, you happen to have a few from previous installation.
Yep.
You only use this during the install part.
Yeah, so
once
save
that's
it,
done,
save
it for your next project.
Yeah, but make sure you change the batteries before you use it again.
All right, let's go. Let's talk about that electrical roughing kit, because this was something that I wanted to bring on again because of technical support issues, and one of that is sometimes the boxes might be sized incorrectly. Sometimes the proper conduit is not used, and so we've put together these install kits for you so that you just hand it to your electrician, and everything's there. They have exactly everything they need to run the return power leads that allow the heating element to operate via electricity. Those return power leads need to be placed in the wall in conduit for the most part. And so we make that dead simple. You don't have to guess what you need.
Right. And the kit that we always recommend is one that allows you to comply with the National Electric Code.
Yes.
So your local code may be different. So the National Electric Code suggests that there's two conduits, one for the high voltage wires and one for the low voltage wires.
Right.
Some people or some places don't require two. They just need a conduit for the high voltage wires, and then the low voltage thermostat wire just can go down the wall.
But don't put them both in the same conduit.
Never put them in the same conduit. And then there are certain counties or certain places like the one we live in where they don't even really require conduit at all.
Right.
So you have a choice of no conduit, one conduit for the cable, and two conduits, one for the cable and one for the sensor.
Right.
So there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. And we always defer to the way that will allow you to comply with the national code, which is usually the more strict of the two. Absolutely.
All right. So we're at this point, we're close to the end. This is where you want to save this information. You might want to share it with your professional or your client. So we make it easy for you to do that. You can save that quote. You can share it. You also, clearly, you have your price. Once you put together the cost of the floor heating, then you add the cost of the controls. Any of those accessories that we talked about, you get that bottom line price. You can just purchase it right there, add to cart. Again, if you're a pro, make sure that you have an account so you get your trade discount. But you can definitely share it, save it, because sometimes it's a lot of thinking that you're doing. It's not necessarily difficult to use the tool, but you're really thinking about every part of that project, from which heating element you want to which of those controls you like, and studying the different features. So save it, share it. But the final point is request that plan. We don't like seeing any heating element going out the door without a plan. Because we know that, hey, we've designed it the best we can. It lets you look at the plan and go, yeah, oh, this does match, or no, oh, I forgot to make this note here that we're going to heat this extra part of the room. Yeah, let's take a look at the plan so the folks can see. Let's go to slide 18. And you can see this is the one thing I wanted before we do that is we can't save it and we can't send it to you and we can't do any of that unless you tell us who you are. Yeah. So you're going to have an account of some sort to do anything about saving. So just an FYI there. Sorry. Good to know. No, good. And now we really want to talk about that floor plan, why it's important, what it's showing you. Again, this can be done a variety of different ways. In the future, you'll be able to actually design it online. That's coming in 2019, early 2019. But for now, we like to have you send that file in. You can attach it to the, as we showed you earlier in the tool. And then we're going to give that to our engineering team. And they're going to kind of look at the room, look at the products we have, and do the best design. Yeah, we take your specific custom area
and design a custom design using an in-stock product.
And if you guys see the T with the circle, we always like to know the location of the thermostat, because we talked earlier about those return power leads. They have to get back to that thermostat. Now they're a pretty good length. How
15 feet long.
15
most
feet
cases.
long in most cases. So it's a pretty good length. But if you have a really large room, that's something that you may have to plan strategically. So we like to show you where any controls we assume are located, or you tell us where you want them located.
In a small room like this, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, I want the thermostat to be over here on the vanity, well, then you may have trouble getting the cold lead from here all the way over to there up the wall. So if that's the case, you say, hey, I want the thermostat over here, we would actually redesign this for you, and we would have that for you right away. And that way you could get it installed correctly instead of trying, oh, I'm trying to get the cold lead to run all the way over here around the, don't. Just let us know, hey, we've moved the thermostat location. Can you do a new drawing for us? Sure.
Yeah.
We'll do that for you.
And we like to see where the doors are. You talked about fixtures earlier. As you can see, the showers indicated, the vanities indicated, the toilets indicated. We need to know where those major appliances, fixtures are going to be located on your plan. And then once you've given us all of that information, whether you upload it, whether you email it, whether you fax it, we get that over to engineering. They turn that around in 24 hours. So you'll have it the next business day.
Yeah,
Just
very quick.
Fast.
Very quick.
And it's a little hard to see, but in the lower right-hand corner, again, we're emphasizing operational electrical costs, how many amps this is going to require. And we really want you to share that information. As a matter of fact, along with that floor plan will come an actual electrical plan. And that's more like everything the electrician will need to know, and maybe a little bit more. We even size the circuit for you, but that's everything the electrician needs to know to make sure that you get the best quote from your electrician.
Right. So on here, it'll tell you what size breaker you need, what type of voltage you need, how many watts, how many amps it's going to be, because your electrician is going to need to know what the amp draw is, how many watts it is, because he needs to size the wire that's running the circuit for that. So all that information will be included. If you don't request an installation plan, you're not going to get this.
Right.
It's going to be on the order. It's going to say it in a line in a line on the product list.
Yeah.
So it's much better to get this plan, because it shows the electrician, you can just go, here you go. This is what we need. And it's all right there.
And keep that plan, because you never know, things happen. Door stops get put in, flooring sometimes gets changed. So many things can happen and change. And it's good to know exactly where the heating element is installed, because you don't want to damage that if you have to go back and do some repair work to a tile for some reason. Can you think about it?
Yeah, the door stops are a really big one.
Clawfoot tubs.
Clawfoot tubs, right.
And so keep that floor plan. Also keep it for, the future. Let's say, you're going to sell this house one day. Keep it for the future homeowner, so they know exactly where the floor heating is installed. So it's an amazing tool to have. So, and we do it free, and we do it fast.
Exactly.
And we do it well.
So you don't have, there's no reason not to get one.
All right, let's move on. That's it, guys. You did a great job today.
I think you did too.
Thanks. And I took credit for a lot of things that
That's
I didn't actually do.
That's all right.
But if you have any other questions, this is the time. We did get 2 questions in ahead of time. One was, do you recommend can homeowners install the product? We've kind of addressed that a few times. Watch the videos. How handy are you? Know your limits, know your strengths. And yes, a homeowner could potentially install it, but we always recommend that you pair up with a trade, and that trade person could be a custom builder. We do recommend that. This is very popular in the custom builder community. It's a way to differentiate their homes, add value for their clients. A lot of times, we're pairing. We see a lot of pairing with consumers and trade installers, flooring installers specifically.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great idea. And the thing is, we always recommend an electrician to hook it up to the main system. So.
Right. And we can give you idea based on where you're located of trade folks that we've worked with in the past, that have a history of doing these things more frequently. It's always good to pair up with someone that has some experience under their belt. Now, this is still, even though I've been doing this over 20 years, it's still relatively kind of new to the market. And so if you as an installer or Mr. or Mrs. homeowner, if you want to get education for your installer, these webinars are a great way to do that. We also have live Q&As that we do every day but Wednesday, where you can get information on, how to install floor heating, how to measure for a floor plan. So there's a ton of information out there for you. So
and the most labor intensive thing you're going to probably do is the measurement.
Yeah.
Because you want to make sure the measurement's correct, and you want to show, where the posts are, if there are any, where the air vents are, if there are any.
Yep.
So that's the most important thing. And once you get those numbers to us, the rest is, we're going to figure it out for you.
Yeah.
So it really is that simple.
You like to say, watch our videos.
Yeah. And watch the videos as much as you can, but remember, the videos are just like a time cap. They encapsulate a big process into a little short time. So we always say the videos are a good guide, but you need to make sure you read the installation manual, because there are specific things in there.
Nobody reads installation manuals anymore, Scotty.
You have to.
Just call Scott. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so we do this once a month. We do a long format webinar. We do short live Q&As almost every day. But these, we try and make them a little bit more detailed. And so you can catch us the second Thursday of every month, and we'll be back in January. I won't be here, sadly. I'll be on vacation, but you can you can join us, and we're kind of doing just a ask us anything about radiant heating. You did say we qualified that, right? Just about radiant heating, but join us for our next webinar, please. And then we always like to talk about what's happening in terms of promotion. Try and do it something every month for you folks. But there is a 25% off if you're looking for a cool, sharp-looking towel warmer as a holiday gift. Check that out online. And then what else is happening? Give us your feedback.
Let us know what you think. Use the
tool. Let us know what you think of the tool. How can I make it better? What do you think about adding inches to that one area?
And what do you think about for next? What do you want us to talk about?
Yeah, what do you want us to talk about? Yeah. Because I'm out of ideas. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
So give us your feedback. And then as I shared earlier, my email is there. It's there for a very specific reason. I want to hear directly from you. I'm always looking for ways to improve my business. So reach out to me. And of course, all of our contact information is there for you.
So give us a call. As we're on Facebook, a lot of social media.
Yep.
So make sure you check that out.
Yep.
We're always here for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, no additional questions. That means you've done a really good job.
Well, I thank you so much. And thank you for spending the time.
You're welcome. And until next time,
stay warm and be radiant. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Really good job, buddy.
Stop the broadcast. Stop broadcasting.